Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are live to go over an amazing event that is going to happen tomorrow virtually right here on Sandstone Care's Facebook page. We've got a COVID 19 treatment panel that we have put together to really have an in-depth conversation over what's been going on with COVID-19, what organizations are doing to try to deal with these new changes that are being forced upon us. And today I have with me Marcello, who is going to kind of help us give a preview of what tomorrow really has to offer. So Marcello, for tomorrow, as we get these panelists on, when we're dealing with these changes, what types of things are we going to kind of talk about tomorrow? And how is Sandstone Care kind of dealing with some of these changes right off the bat?
Yeah, definitely. And thank you so much, Danny, for putting this on. We're excited to participate in this. The big thing with COVID-19 and this pandemic is just the how rapidly things have been required to evolve and change. Just a few weeks ago, this really wasn't on folks' radar. It felt foreign. It felt like this was something that was happening overseas and may or may not actually impact us. And if it does, it's going to be benign. And boy, have things changed, obviously. And so, for us and our goal with this panel and participating in this panel is really just to kind of open up the lines of communication and share best practices, because it's impacted the behavioral health field in very, very significant ways and is really going to change the way that we operate for a very long time. I would imagine that this probably isn't just going to be a short little, this happened and this was a short little thing until there's a vaccine for COVID-19. Like, we're going to be operating with very, very different practices at the very least. And even post that, there's probably going to be a lot more awareness around the risks associated with these sorts of, pandemic risks, if you will. So, the panel itself is made up of different individuals that have different experiences, and I'm actually excited to hear from them myself, just to understand how different organizations are approaching supporting the patients, clients, and families they work with, keeping their staff safe. How do we keep treatment really effective when you're moving to telehealth? That's a tough thing to do, and we were forced to do that in a matter of days. That's an initiative that would normally take months, if not years, to do, but most organizations had to make that shift in like a week's time. And just sharing best practices around how to do that well. I'm excited to hear from Dr. Barnes on how he's thinking about that from a clinical standpoint. The reality is that the world hasn't seen something like this for a very, very long time. I think like the Spanish flu was the last one, 1918. And the impact today, just because we're so interconnected, is like vastly more significant. Like the rate we talked about that this has taken hold, it's scary. It's a scary time to be a human being in this world. And we're seeing that, and I'm sure Dr. Barnes is seeing that, even just with new clients and families coming into treatment. There's a lot there because of that uncertainty. And so, hearing more from his perspective will be nice. We have Drew, my colleague, on. He's supporting families on the front end. He oversees admissions for Sandstone Care. And as you can imagine, one of the big things on the admissions side for an organization is how do we make sure we're appropriately screening for individuals so that when they access care, that we make sure that, if they haven't been exposed, they're not putting the rest of the milieu and or our staff at risk. And how do you do that effectively? How do you talk about receiving services via telehealth? I mean, that's a big question that families have. We're fortunate that people are pretty comfortable with technology and things like FaceTime have been around for a number of years now. So people are getting more and more comfortable with interacting virtually like this, but they're still scratching their head a bit when they're thinking about, in our case, 15 hours a week of IOP services, all virtual. That's not always easily understood. And so, I think he'll share some interesting dynamics there. And then obviously Rourke, excited to hear his perspective with the program that he operates up in Evergreen, and also his purview into the recovery world and recovery communities and transitional living, how things are changing as it relates to COVID and some of the best practices that he's seeing there as well.
Yeah, so as of right now, policies and procedures are being written on the fly. Things are being put into place that there's no rule book or guide that has happened before here. So, what's exciting about this event, and this isn't just about these speakers, I want you to know that if you're watching this either live or in the replay, I want you to know that this is a community thing. If you're on during this live broadcast, we have really chopped out a section for Q&A so that you can ask your questions. If you have a delicate situation that you haven't figured out yet, maybe the four individuals, we can put our minds together and start to figure some of the problems you're facing out together. And what I love is that each one of these organizations has probably dealt with different things at different speeds. Different having to implement sending people home. Sandstone Care is naturally a larger organization than like Sparrow Recovery. So how is a smaller organization dealing with COVID a little differently than a larger organization is? So we want this to be a community of people who are asking questions, and this is very informational. And I want to kind of throw up real quickly, Marcello, to give you an idea. So these are the idea of the topics that we're going to cover, and that is policy creation, like Marcello said, how and where to source supplies, how to keep sick staff and clients safe, working with insurance companies, and forecasting the future based on what we're seeing around the world. So, Marcello, from Sandstone Care's perspective, how important do you think it is to have the community come together during this time?
Yeah, hugely important, right? I mean, and you referenced, really wanting to make this an open forum Q&A session, and I am right there with you. And that the reality is, because we've had to embrace so much change so quickly, I know that I've been reaching out to lots of colleagues and peers in the community and bouncing different ideas off them and picking their brains on different facets, because we're all in this together. It's a tough. It's been challenging to make some of these changes at the pace we have, and working together is critically important. So very, very excited to be able to help participate in that.
Yeah, and thanks for being the catalyst of all this, and thanks for trying to bring the community together. So I'm going to remind you one more time, if you're watching live or in the replay, if you post your questions below, we will try to add them into what we're going to talk about for the panel discussion tomorrow from 2 to 4. So getting those questions written out, letting us know beforehand what's worrying you and what obstacles are you coming up against is going to help us as a community really figure this out at the same time. So Marcello, we're excited about this tomorrow. If you want the live link, it is already posted on Sandstone Care's Facebook page. You can just scroll down a little, click the Get Reminder button, and you will be notified when we virtually go live on Facebook. All comments will be moderated during the event. So if you ask a question during the live event, we'll be able to bring it up either during that moment or again at the end for the Q&A session. So Marcello, thanks for taking time out of your busy day. How are you and your family sort of doing during this moment? Is everybody thriving, surviving?
Yeah, we're hanging in there. I'm obviously working from the home office today. Trying to take advantage of the extra time together. I mean, it's definitely different. I'm personally usually on the road a lot, bouncing around to our different locations, and so it's been nice to be able to just be more connected on the home front and trying to take advantage of that. We have toilet paper, which is good. That's one of the focal points these days for us as a household is making sure we've got those basic supplies and basic needs, which we took for granted just a few weeks ago. But all good. I hope the same is the case for you, Danny.
Yeah, we're doing well over here. So again, thanks for your time today, Marcello. We really appreciate you spending some time, and don't miss tomorrow's event, 2 to 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, right here on Sandstone Care's Facebook page. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thanks. See you, Danny.
Bye.